Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm Roisentul, your host, and today we have a really different episode from all the ones that we have recorded so far. So I'm super excited about this one. Brenden is the founder of MasterTalk. He coaches ambitious executives and entrepreneurs to become top number one percent communicators in their industry. He also has a popular YouTube channel called MasterTalk with the goal of providing free access to communication tools for everyone in the world. Before talking to him, let me tell you that this episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. I mean, we get it. Customer acquisition costs are going up. There's lack of tracking. Attribution is driving you nuts, right? And audience sizes are getting smaller after the iOS 14 update, iOS 14, 14.5, 15, and so on. We are even tired to hear about that, right? If that wasn't enough, there are other factors such as the recession and supply chain issues making it harder than ever to grow your business, whatever that is, e-commerce brands or any other that is related to online sales. That's why now more than ever, we need to understand that it's really important to develop the marketing and design a solid strategy as what used to work doesn't anymore. Here at BSR Digital, we have been helping countless e-commerce brands that wanted to scale their business to the next level through paid ads and email marketing for over a decade. To learn more, you can visit us at bsrdigital.com or you can email us at hello@bsrdigital.com. Now, as promised, I have Brenden here with me. Hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Brian, pleasure's absolutely mine. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Why don't you start by telling the audience more about your story, your background?
For sure, Brian. So it all started in college. I went to business school and university. And my goal was to never be a communication coach. I didn't even know that was a profession. I actually studied in accounting. That's what my bachelor's degree is in. But while I was studying there, Brian, I competed in case competitions. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So other guys my age were playing footy or rugby or baseball or basketball. I wasn't one of those guys. I did presentations competitively, and that's how I learned how to speak. But then as I got older, I was coaching a lot of the students in college so that they could win competitions. And I accidentally got really good at coaching communication. And that's where the idea for the YouTube channel Master Talk came to be, because I realized everything that I was sharing with them wasn't really available for free on the internet. And here we are today.
Yeah, that's great, man. I mean, I can definitely I will say to the audience that before hitting record, I was telling you that I watched one of those videos that you have in your amazing YouTube channel, and it was like, you got me, man. It was about, you can say better probably than I can, but it was about whom's and hums instead of the silences and the importance of making pauses, which I'm not doing right now. And it was really like relevant to me. And I remember the next call I got into after listening to that or watching that video, that it was identifying all of those things that I was doing, all those mistakes, let's say I was making. It was like, you got me. So that's great already.
Don't worry, I'm not the police department. It's all about getting better, right? And at least what you have, Brian, which I love, is you have awareness. Because most people don't even have the awareness. They just say it for the rest of their life. Where you took a step back and you said, you know what? Maybe I should probably remove my ums and ahs. Because if I did, I would be better than most podcast hosts in my niche. And that's what allows you to get better.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's the most important thing to have. I think in the first place, awareness, and then if you can improve whatever you can improve, that would be awesome. So in this case, I do recognize that thanks to you and your video. Now I need to work on improving that. So I want to touch base on something because I think there's a myth around public speaking that is probably not for everyone. It's for those doing a TED talk on the stage, talking in front of a large audience. And most people listening are not. Most people are listening are e-commerce founders, marketing directors, and so on. And they might be wondering, is this for me? So what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely, Brian. So the way that I explain it is communication is the most important skill in our life because it helps us lead a more fulfilling life. Let me give you an example. It's about the way that we do a job interview for a marketing director to get to senior marketing director. How do we package our expertise in a way where people say, wow, this person is somebody I need to hire and promote? On the ecom founder side, it's the way that we raise capital. Hi everyone, I have this business and it's going to raise that. You're not telling a compelling story. Like people will not be enthralled to give you capital because part of being a founder is being able not just to set a compelling vision, but to also communicate it in a way that other people want to follow you and engage with you. So that's communication. But it's even everything in between. It's the ways that we raise our children. Yelling versus being nice to them, knowing how to do conflict resolution. It's the way that we show up for our families. It's the way that we make new friends. That's communication. It's the way that we order food at a restaurant. It's every area of our life, Brian. And once we realize that, it helps us get better. That's why the question I always ask is how would your life change if you became an exceptional communicator?
That's very true. I'm a father of twins. They are 3 right now, and I sometimes observe other parents in the way, I mean, how they yell at them or how they say something when they do something wrong. And the way I act, I'm not perfect either, right? And it's like it changes things. I've been also a business owner for many years now, not only this agency, but I started a software factory in 2010. And then I had a startup, I raised capital. And it's exactly what you said. It's how you prepare, how you talk, how you communicate, not only to the customer, to your team, to your partner, to everyone, right? So it's really important. And that's why I appreciate that. So can we give the audience, because this is what the audience love, and I think that you will be able to give it to them. What are some of the most common use case scenarios for business owners or even for directors? What are the things that they are missing the most, and the easy wins, let's say, they can improve, let's say, easier than harder?
Absolutely. I love the frame. So here's the way I think about it, Brian. Communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time. So one of those balls is eye contact, one of them is smiling, one of them is body language, one of them saying less ums and ahs, one of them storytelling. And it can get really confusing for people because there's so many balls. You don't know which one to pick up. So for me, the question has always been, what are the 3 easiest balls that we can juggle in the air? Because if we start with those that I call my easy threes, we can build the momentum up over time. So let's go through them. Number 1, the random word exercise. Take any word like light bulb, like lamp, like window, trophy, and create random presentations out of thin air. There's 2 reasons why this is effective. Number 1, because it helps you deal with uncertainty. Life is filled with uncertainty. You don't know what's going to happen in your life as an e-com founder. One day, guy you want to raise capital from pulls out. Another day, your customer leaves you. Another day, employee leaves you. That's life. So you need to know how to deal with uncertainty. But if you can talk about avocados for 30 seconds, you could have any conversation with anybody about your subject matter. Number 2, this is what I tell clients, is if you could make sense out of nonsense, you could make sense out of anything. And that's really the magic of being so great at the random word exercise. And that's exercise number 1 of 3.
Right? Do you dare do one live? Do one
Yeah,
live
sure.
right
Give me,
now? So
of
can we
course, give
talk
me one
about,
word.
uh, I don't know. Now I'm stuck. Let's say mugs, coffee mugs.
Absolutely. So Brian just gave me the word coffee mugs, and he didn't give me this word prior to this conversation.
No, I didn't.
It's Sunday morning, Brian, and I'm enjoying my hot water in a coffee mug. So you would think that if I had a coffee mug that I would drink coffee. But to be honest, there's a lot of caffeine. I don't like it too much. But the reason I bring up the coffee mug, Brian, is so many of us, we underplay that moment. That small break that we get every morning to really enjoy the simplest of drinks. You know, Dale Carnegie always says there's nothing sweeter than taking a cup of coffee, looking at the roses in your garden, and enjoying the moment of life for what it is. Because if we learn to be happy in those small moments of our life with our little coffee mug, we'll enjoy every other moment of our life too. So I encourage you the next time that you pick up your coffee mug tomorrow, don't just pass over it too quickly. Don't just focus on what you have to do in your e-com store or what website you have to fix or what Facebook ads you need to run today, but focus a little bit more on the bigger picture, which is the joy of life and the coffee that you get to enjoy with it in the moment. There you go, random word exercise.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that sounds like prepared and it's not. I swear it wasn't. So that was great. What are the key elements to what you just did? I mean, what are the key ingredients that allowed you to do such a thing?
Absolutely, Brian. So let's start with number one. Please, for everyone listening to this, do not compare yourself to me. I've done the exercise 3,000 times. Not three times, 3,000 times. So, what I always tell people, Brian, is the first 100 times of doing the exercise, we do not judge ourselves. So, this is why I say we get points for doing it a lot, not for doing it well. So, when you do it the first time, it's going to sound like this. Uh, uh, mm, mm, coffee mug is so you don't know what you're doing at the beginning. But then as you mature as a communicator, you start to have fun with it. You start to get better at it. And what it does is it removes the fear of judgment. Let's take your podcast. I'm sure when you started this podcast, you had a little bit of anxiety. You're like, "Oh my God, why should I put out videos in the world?" And now you've gotten a lot better. So that's the advice, is really focus on the reps. And then what happens after 100 times, Brian? And by the way, 100 doesn't seems like a big number, but it really isn't. Because if you spend 5 minutes doing it 5 times for 3 weeks, that's your 100. That's it. And then after that, what happens is you get a lot more comfortable. You start to have more fun with it, like I did, and then you get a lot better with it.
Yeah, and this is from your video, which everyone should watch it, in your YouTube channel, but the silences, the pauses that you made. And something I do frequently is that I look away, and for everyone watching the video version, you were looking at the camera 100%, even when you were making something up. And that's even harder because when you know something, you can talk, but if you need to imagine, you look at, I think it's you look at the right, your eyes go to the right. And if you're making it up to the left, right, or something like that, if you're remembering to the right or it's to the left, I don't remember right now. Do you?
Yeah, so there's not really a set rule on this. Maybe I just don't know this, but you're right in general that whenever we're trying to think of something, our eyes
Look away.
generally move on top. Whereas me, I'm trained, I'm still making it up, right, when I'm doing the random word exercise, but I'm trained to keep my eyes on the lens, absolutely. But one point I want to drive here, because everything you said is right, Brian. Yes, I'm pausing. Yes, I'm looking at the camera. But notice what we're doing here is we're adding more balls to the game, right? That's why I said communications like juggling 18 at the same time. So yes, all of this is true, and all 18 balls are on my YouTube channel. But the most important thing I want to drive here is, are you doing ball number one? Because the biggest mistake right now that everyone is making is they are not booking 15 minutes on their calendar every single day to do the random word exercise. Because if we're not willing to do this, forget about pausing. That's not happening. We're not going to get it right. It's more about saying, no, no, no. Am I doing the random word exercise every day? And then we get better really quickly. And then we say, oh, let's go to ball two now. And then three. And then the game really gets interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember the name right now, but someone recently said that achieving success in something is doing ordinary things an extraordinary amount of times. And this is exactly, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you're talking about. It's like it's repetition. You do it over and over and over and over again, paying attention to what you're doing, fix your wrongs, and you will do it right. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I believe the person that you're referring to is Alex Hormozy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was him. Yeah, I'm happy you follow him too. He delivers a lot of
Yes,
value.
I'm a religious cult follower of Alex Hormozy, yes.
Yeah, yeah, there are two of us. Yeah. So let's say that that's a starting point that's huge for everyone listening. You should practice these three balls. There are 18 of them you mentioned. That's a lot. Three sounds like something you can manage and you can handle, right? So you start there. We'll leave the three of them in the show notes just in case. for everyone, right? But continuing the conversation again, e-commerce brands are saying, this sounds great, but does this only apply to the oral or verbal communication, or does it also apply to the written communication?
It does. I think the way I would see this, Brian, is communication is like a multiplier effect. So let me give you an example. So let's say we think about the random word exercise. Let's say we did it 100 times as an example. Sure, it does make us better at presentations, but it also makes us better at small talk. When you go to a bar, you go to a party, and somebody asks you a question, it's literally a random word exercise because you don't know how that conversation is going to go or what they're going to talk about. So by doing the random word, not only are you better at presentations, you also get better at conversations. So notice what's happening here is when as one domino falls, the other dominoes are starting to follow. So it's the same analogy with verbal versus written. Most of my expertise is in verbal. That's probably 90% of my expertise. But what happens is as you get better at verbal, you automatically get better at written. Not one for one, but definitely on a percentage basis because you just get better at structuring your ideas. So you start to write better. So that's the way I would see it. In terms of ball 2 and 3, really quick, the ball 2 is the question drill, where you make a list of all the questions. So if you're a founder, this is perfect. Let's say you're pitching to investors. Make a list of questions that you think investors will ask you and answer one of those questions every day for a year. That's how I got really good really fast. Because if you answer one question a day about your e-commerce brand, you'll have answered 365 questions in a year. You'll be bulletproof. No one's going to be able to ask you a question that you won't know the answer to. And the last one is just sending video messages to your top 25 accounts who are buying the most of your product and your brand to make them feel like they have a special connection to the founder. That's will undoubtedly increase sales.
Right. So the second one is mainly to write at least one question at a time for every day during the year about your e-commerce brand. So when somebody, an investor or anybody else asks you something, you could have written that for I don't know how many times, and it would be bulletproof, as you said. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then there's other ways of doing that exercise too, which is one way I like it to speed up results is you lock yourself in a room with the 3 worst people in your network and have them ask you hundreds of questions in 3 hours. That's the way I teach clients to do it because it's fast. So somebody will get asked, let's say, 100 questions in 3 hours, and they'll be tired at the end, but they'll be ready. That's for sure.
I can bet. And the third one was basically about sending videos to those who bought from you, right? Thanking them for buying. Why do you think that's relevant? And how do you think brands can actually achieve that, especially those with a high order volume?
Great question, Brian. Here's my principle in life. If you communicate 20% better than your competition, you will stand out 100% of the time. What does that mean? That means it's not about doing the magic, like taking a Harry Potter magic wand and creating communication magic. That's not what this is about. It's about realizing that only 1% of people listening to this podcast, even if they're committed, these are people who are committed, right? Smart individuals who are taking time to listen to this episode. But even within that community of high performers, Brian, only 1% of them will consistently do the random word exercise, the question drill, and the video messages every single day. What does that mean? That means the other 99% won't. It's not even about doing it well. It's just about doing it, period. Kind of like when you go to a gym, the impressive thing is not about going to the gym, it's about the person who doesn't miss days at the gym. Right? It's just the person who shows up. So what does that mean in the context of e-commerce? So I have kind of 2 different perspectives on this. One is if your net customer size, your base, is less than 100. So if it's less than 100, even if they bought a $5 product, you should message all of them. Why? Couple of reasons. One, it improves customer loyalty. So if people have a relationship with you, the founder, kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you know the owner, you feel a sense of loyalty towards that person that you don't get that human connection from just buying a product off of Amazon. That's one piece, or Shopify if you have your own e-commerce store. But the other reason is because you get better customer feedback. and your refund intake will go much lower. If I bought something from you, Brian, and you're my friend, the product sucks, I won't get a refund. I won't ask for one. I'll tell you the product sucks, but I won't ask for a refund because you're my friend, right? So you'll be able to get customer feedback and you'll keep the money in your pocket. That's the second reason. The third caveat I would give is if your customer size is much bigger, let's say it's in the thousands, what I would do is I would categorize all your customer base by gross purchase amount, like who are kind of your top 100 buyers. I call it the golden 100 that in my business, but ours is service based. But in product, it works the same way. And I would just send video messages to your top 100.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, everything in life is not about doing it all, like nothing or everything. You can do partial, there are partial solutions, and it's not an excuse for not taking action, right? That's something holding people back many times. It's like I have a lot of like a high order volume. I wouldn't be able to do it anyways. Yes, you're good because you need to choose your golden 100, as you said, and do something about them. Or right now, there are many, many tools that don't replace the human touch, but will help you send them a message. Or I don't know, I joined an e-commerce mastermind last year, and they sent me an email with an image holding a blank paper and my name written on that. Of course, I know that was automated and was written computer, but it felt like, they were welcoming me and they had a sign with my name, even though I know it was not personalized 100%. That's one thing. Then we have worked with some other clients in the agency that they are uh, in the, I won't say and whom. I'm trying not to. What I remember, it was like a MailChimp, but for mail, right? Not email, mail. So that's it, handwritten notes. They will help you send handwritten notes. You upload your list with the clients and their addresses and the message. And with robots, they will make it look like handwritten notes. And believe me, they really look like handwritten ones. There are many companies like those, I know. And that's another, let's say, human touch that can act as a thank you note. So the video is great, but anything in between, let's say for the top 100, that's a video. If you're gonna do a video for the other, for the rest of the list, at least you can do something, or nothing if you don't want to, right? But there are no excuses, as you said.
Correct. And I love that idea too. I didn't even know that there was like robots who like handwrite
Oh yeah,
notes.
oh
It's really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I'll give them a shout out. I'm not affiliate to them whatsoever, but I really love what they do, and I have a great relationship with them. I will leave the link in the show notes, but shout out to Chassis Stain at audience.co. It's audience.co. I know there are some other solutions if you want to compare, but that's another human touch for uh, not only commerce, but some other B2B, you know, some businesses, real estate, or wealth managers. If you have a client and you know their address, you can actually send them something, and that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this was a really interesting conversation. I personally learned a lot. So I wanted to thank you for that. I hope everyone listening or watching this video, they learned a lot too. I know you have a free training if in case that's anyone listening uh is curious about knowing more about these awesome, tips that you have for them. So where can they go to learn more about that?
Absolutely, Brian. It was great to be on. Thanks for having me. So, two key ways to keep in touch. The first one, definitely the YouTube channel. Just go to MasterTalk in one word, and you'll have access to hundreds of free videos on how to speak. And the second one that you brought up is the free training. So, for people who want to see a lot of these tips in action, like me doing them, I do a free Zoom call that's live and interactive on communication. That's absolutely free every 2 weeks. And if you want to jump in on that training, just go to rockstarcommunicator.com.
Awesome. As always, we'll leave the link in the show notes. That's it at fitgrowthmachine.com. If you are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcasting platform, you can head to fitgrowthmachine.com. You can find the episode there and you will need to scroll down and you will find all the resources mentioned, including this free training and his YouTube channel. Thank you again, Brenden. You were great. Really, I appreciate it.
Pleasure was mine, Brian. Thanks for having me.